I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We met in college, got married pretty young, and honestly, things seemed solid for a long time. She's always been a little high maintenance, kind of bitchy sometimes, but I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. 6 months ago, everything changed. I was diagnosed with cancer, specifically, a pretty aggressive form of lymphoma. The diagnosis hit me hard, obviously. Suddenly, my world shrank down to hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and trying to keep it together for my wife and our life together. Lisa was supportive at first, or at least she pretended to be. She'd come to the hospital, hold my hand, cry a little, then go back to her own life, which I now see was more complicated than I guessed. The first signs of trouble started during those hospital days. I'd catch her sneaking out of the room or acting secretive, like she was hiding something. She'd answer her phone in a rush, turn away when I looked her way, and get defensive if I questioned her. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed, but deep down I felt something was off. And then there was Dr. Carter, the surgeon who operated on me. He's a well-respected guy in his early 50s and very good at what he does. We met him during my initial diagnosis and subsequent surgeries. I remember thinking he was a little too friendly, a little too attentive. But I was sick, exhausted, and just grateful he was helping me get better. I didn't pay much attention at the time. What I didn't realize until much later was that Lisa and Dr. Carter had a weird, almost obsessive connection. I'd see the way they looked at each other, like she was hanging on every word he said, like she was trying to flirt with him right in front of me. I'd catch her texting him late at night, and she'd always have some excuse ready. "It's about my appointment," she'd say, or "I needed to ask him about your medication." But then I'd notice her phone was always hidden, and her stories didn't add up. One day, I was lying in my hospital bed after a chemo session, feeling drained but also noticing things I'd overlooked. I found her phone sitting on the bedside table. It was unlocked. I wasn't snooping, okay, maybe I was, but I saw a message from Dr. Carter. "Just a simple thinking of you today. Hope you're doing okay." I froze, my stomach dropped. I pulled the phone closer and my eyes widened as I read through the conversation. It wasn't just small talk. It was flirtatious, intimate, borderline inappropriate. The worst part, there was a specific message from her. "Can't wait to see you again. I need your touch." I read it over and over, my hands trembling. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating on me with my doctor, all during my cancer treatment. It was a betrayal I couldn't even process fully at that moment. All the fear, anger, and heartbreak hit me at once. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew my life would never be the same after I did. When I finally managed to get my hands on her phone, I wasn't thinking clearly. All I knew was that I needed to see if what I found was real, or just some horrible misunderstanding. I never thought my wife, Lisa, would cheat on me, especially not during my fight with cancer. But there it was, the messages staring back at me like a slap in the face. I remember the moment vividly. I was lying there in my hospital bed, feeling weak, and my mind was racing. I couldn't believe I was about to invade her privacy like this, but I was so hurt, so betrayed, that I couldn't help myself. I unlocked her phone, and there it was, the full conversation. It was more than just some innocent chats. They were discussing meetups, plans to see each other outside the hospital, and explicit talk that made my stomach turn. She lied to me about everything. Said she was just there for moral support, always acting like she was exhausted, overwhelmed, or just busy with work. But that wasn't true. She was sneaking out, meeting him, and getting fucked behind my back. During my chemo sessions, she was probably in his office or some hotel, doing God knows what. The thought made me sick, but I couldn't stop looking at those messages. It was so raw, so real. She had been lying too. My face for months. I felt a boiling rage rise up inside me. I wanted to yell, to cry, to break something. I was sick, exhausted, and now completely shattered. My wife, my partner, the woman I gave my life to, was out there cheating on me with the man who was supposed to save my life. It felt like a cruel joke. I closed her phone gently, not wanting her to catch me, but the damage was done. I knew I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. The next step was clear: confront her. I had to hear her lies, her excuse, her bullshit. I waited until she finished her shift and I called her to come to the hospital. When she arrived, she was her usual bitchy self, impatient, dismissive, like she didn't think I was worth her time. I kept calm, but inside I was boiling. I looked her straight in the eyes and just said, "Who is Dr. Carter to you, Lisa?" She sneered and rolled her eyes. "What are you talking about? You're just paranoid. Stop accusing me, Mike. I don't have time for your insecurities." But I knew better. I pulled out her phone and showed her the messages. Her face flickered, then turned into that smirk she always uses when she's caught in a lie. "Okay, so what if I talk to him? He's just a friend," she said, brushing it off like it was no big deal. "You're sick, Mike. You're hallucinating. Maybe you're just imagining things because you're vulnerable right now." I couldn't even look at her. Her words were empty, her lies obvious. I felt my blood boiling. How could she be so callous, so indifferent to what she'd done? She didn't even seem sorry, just angry that I found out. I wanted to break something, to scream at her, but all I could do was stare and feel the crushing disappointment. I realized I'd been blind for months. She had been cheating on me during my worst moments, while I was fighting for my life. I thought she supported me, but she was out there, finding comfort in the arms of a man who was supposed to be just my doctor. That betrayal cut so deep I didn't know how I'd recover from it. I kept asking myself, how could she do this to someone who was so vulnerable? She finally stormed out of the room, telling me I was losing my mind, that I was paranoid and jealous. But I knew what I saw, I knew the truth. And that truth set everything on fire inside me. I was hurt, angry, and shattered beyond words. I didn't sleep that night, replaying every moment, every lie she told me about how much she loved me, how she only cared. It was all bullshit. She was cheating right under my nose, and I was just too sick to see it. After that confrontation, everything changed. I was already vulnerable from the cancer, but now I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The betrayal haunted me day and night. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it sooner, how I was so blind to her lies. I'd always thought Lisa was a bit of a bitch, sure, but I never imagined she could be this cruel, cheating on me during my fight for survival. It felt like I was falling apart from the inside, like my entire world was crumbling. I decided I needed to get some perspective, to figure out what to do next. I started digging through her stuff, trying to find more proof. She'd been sneaky, changing passwords, deleting texts, acting like she was innocent, but I was relentless. I knew she was hiding something. One night I followed her when she left the house. She went to some hotel downtown, an expensive one by the looks of it. I parked a few streets away and watched her go inside. That scene, her sneaking away, made everything real. She wasn't just lying, she was actively sneaking around behind my back. That's when I realized I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just confront her again without a plan. I started thinking about revenge, about how to make her feel the pain she'd inflicted on me. I wasn't just angry, I was sick of being the fool, the guy who gets betrayed and does nothing. I wanted her to pay. Not just leave her, not just divorce her. No, I wanted her to feel the same heartbreak, the same sense of loss that I felt every damn day now. So I started laying the groundwork. I hired a private investigator. Yeah, I know it sounds paranoid, but I needed proof, solid proof. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. For weeks, I watched her movements, tracked her calls, and waited for the perfect moment to strike back. I even set up cameras in our house, discreet ones, to catch her in the act if she tried to deny anything later. I didn't trust her anymore, and I was determined to expose everything. A part of me was disgusted at how far I'd gone. I'd never been the jealous type, never the vengeful guy. But this, her betrayal, had changed me. It made me furious, bitter, and cold. I started to think about what I'd do if she tried to deny or lie her way out of it again. I knew I had to be ready when the time came. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, pretending everything was fine. She'd come home late, smell like perfume and smoke, and get defensive if I asked questions. I saw right through her. I could tell she was nervous, constantly looking over her shoulder. I knew she was worried I was onto her. Good, that's exactly how she should feel. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some helpless guy anymore. I was planning my move, and she wouldn't get away with this. The more I watched her, the more it confirmed what I already knew in my gut. She was a liar, a cheat, and she didn't care about what she was doing to me. I felt sick wondering how she could be so callous. During her little lies, I stayed silent, gathering everything I could. I knew I couldn't let her know I was onto her, at least not yet. I had to do this right for my own peace of mind. When I finally had enough proof, I was going to break everything wide open. And honestly, I was already planning how to make her pay. Because if she thought she could hurt me and get away with it, she had another thing coming. I'd been betrayed enough. Now I was ready to fight back, no matter what it took. The days that followed were a blur of planning and brewing anger. I knew I had enough evidence. The hidden cameras caught her sneaking out late at night, the hotel receipts, and the dozens of texts showing her obvious affair with Dr. Carter. Seeing it all laid out in black and white made me feel sick, but at the same time it gave me a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. She really did this, and now I had the proof to do something about it. I spent hours thinking about my next move. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some naive husband who got played for a fool. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, guilty, and maybe even a little scared. That's when I decided I'd confront her in a way she wouldn't expect. I'd invite her over, act like everything was normal, then drop the bomb on her, show her I knew everything, and let her reaction tell me everything I needed to know about her. The day finally came when I called her and told her I wanted to talk. She sounded annoyed, like she was busy or didn't want to be bothered. Typical. When she arrived, she stormed into the room with that snarky attitude, already trying to dismiss the situation before it even started. I kept my composure, leaned back, and looked her straight in the eyes. "I know what you've been doing," I said plainly. Her face flickered with surprise, then quickly turned defensive. "What are you talking about, Mike? I haven't done anything, you're just paranoid." I pulled out the evidence, screenshots, hotel receipts, the recordings, and placed them on the table between us. Her eyes widened and she looked at the pile of proof like it was some sick joke. "This is bullshit," she spat. "You're crazy. You're just jealous and you want to ruin everything because you're weak." Her voice was venomous. I could tell she was trying to spin her way out of it, but the truth was all right there. I felt my hands trembling, but I kept talking. "Don't lie to me," I said. "You've been cheating on me with Dr. Carter during my cancer treatment. How could you do this? How could you betray me like that?" Her face twisted, anger and contempt swirling in her eyes. "I didn't cheat, Mike. You're imagining things. Maybe you're hallucinating from all the meds." I shook my head. "No, Lisa, I saw the messages. I saw the hotel receipts. I watched you sneak out late at night. You lied to me, all of it, and you think I'm some fool. Well, I'm not." I paused, feeling a surge of rage mixed with heartbreak. "You're disgusting, cheating on me while I'm fighting for my life. How could you be so cruel?" Her expression hardened and she spat back. "You're just upset because you're sick. You're acting crazy. I love you. I've always loved you. This isn't what it looks like." Her lies were pouring out faster than I could process. I could see right through her, though. She was panicked, scrambling for cover. I knew I had to end this, to make her see that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I told her to leave right then and there. I couldn't look at her anymore. The betrayal ran too deep. She tried to deny everything, but her face gave her away. In the end, she stormed out, furious, yelling that I was overreacting, that I was jealous, that I was sick. But I wasn't going to let her spin this anymore. I'd already seen the truth, and that truth changed everything. From that moment, I knew I had to decide what I was going to do. Do I forgive her, try to fix this mess? Or do I finally cut her out of my life for good? I felt exhausted, broken, but also a little stronger. I'd caught her red-handed, and now I was in control of where things would go from here. All I knew was I'd never let her hurt me like that again. After I kicked her out, everything hit me like a freight train. I've always thought I was a pretty hard guy, but this betrayal, it shattered something inside me. For days, I just sat there, staring at the wall, replaying her lies, her sneers, her sneaky meetings with Dr. Carter. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that moment when I saw the messages, when I realized the woman I loved had been lying to my face during my cancer fight. It felt like a punch to the gut every time. But even through all that pain, part of me was already planning my next move. I wasn't just going to sit there and let her walk away after doing this to me. No way. I had to make her understand what she lost. I decided I'd get revenge, not just to hurt her, but to make her see the damage she'd done. I'd turn the tables on her, make her feel what I was feeling right now. That's when I started working on my plan. I hired a private investigator just to confirm everything once and for all. I needed proof, undeniable proof, that she was still lying, still sneaking around. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I also set up some hidden cameras in the house, just in case she tried to make a move. I was done trusting her. I needed to be ready for whatever she threw at me. While I waited for the evidence to come in, I focused on gathering my strength. I talked to a few close friends, people I trusted, to get advice. They told me to be careful, to think things through. But honestly, I was past that. I knew what I wanted. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, just like she made me feel. I was sick of being the victim, sick of being betrayed. And then there was the moment I knew I had everything I needed. The pie came back with footage of Lisa meeting with Dr. Carter again, late at night in the parking lot of some fancy hotel. The receipts and texts confirmed it. I had her dead to rights. It was brutal, but I finally felt a tiny bit of clarity. I was going to confront her one last time, not just to kick her out or break things off, but to make her see she'd lost everything. So I arranged to meet her. I told her I wanted to talk, that I needed to get some things off my chest. She showed up all cocky, expecting me to beg or to cave in. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction anymore. I sat her down, looked her straight in the eyes, and played the recordings and showed her the photos I had. Her face went pale when she saw the video footage of her sneaking out again, that same smug attitude replaced with shock and rage. "You lied to me," I said coldly. "While I was fighting cancer, you were out there fucking my doctor. How could you do that? How could you be so heartless?" Her eyes flickered, but she tried her usual bullshit, denying, defending herself, calling me crazy. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth, and it felt good to finally see her squirm. I told her she's done here, that her lies and betrayal meant she could leave and never come back. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore, that I was taking control of this mess. I didn't want her to think she could hurt me and walk away unscathed. That's when she started crying, really crying, not because she was sorry, but because she knew her game was over. She tried to beg, to say she loved me, to spin some bullshit about how stressed she was, but I cut her off. I told her to go, to get out of my life for good, and she did. She stormed out, screaming at me, calling me all kinds of names. I didn't care. I just sat there, exhausted, finally feeling like I'd taken back some control. It was the worst pain I'd ever felt, but also maybe the beginning of some kind of closure. I knew I'd have to rebuild from this, to heal from the betrayal. But for now, I was just glad she was gone. I'd caught her, I'd ended it, and finally I could breathe again, though everything inside me still hurt like hell. The days after she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. On one hand, I was glad she was gone, that she finally revealed her true face and I could start healing. On the other, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lost a part of myself. Someone I once trusted, someone I thought loved me, had turned into a stranger, a liar. It took everything in me to not break down completely, to keep holding it together. I spent a lot of time reflecting on everything that had happened. The betrayal cut deep, but it also made me realize I'd been blind for too long. I had ignored the small signs, the little lies that added up. I realized I'd let her get away with too much because I didn't want to believe the worst. But now I saw the truth clearly. She had no real love for me, just a selfish need for validation, excitement, and the thrill of sneaking around behind my back. I was an easy target, and she took advantage of my illness to hide her betrayal better. That realization was both bitter and freeing. It taught me that I couldn't trust anyone blindly, especially not people who only show their true colors when it's convenient for them. It also made me understand I must focus on myself now, getting stronger physically, emotionally, and mentally. I decided I'd leave the past behind, even if it hurt like hell to do so. I started therapy, not just for the cancer, but to deal with the aftermath of all this betrayal. I knew I had to rebuild my life piece by piece. The one thing I've learned, something I never truly understood before, is that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away. Not revenge in a vengeful sense, but reclaiming your dignity, your peace, and your happiness. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm just tired of the lies, tired of the betrayal, and tired of pretending everything was okay. I want to move on. I want to find someone who will genuinely care, who values honesty and loyalty. Looking back, I realized that I was lucky in a way. The evidence I gathered, the confrontation I had, it all forced her out into the open. Without that, I might have stayed in that toxic cycle of lies and denial forever. Now I see her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who only cared about herself. I don't miss her, and I don't regret standing up for myself, even if it hurt like hell. If there's one thing I can tell anyone reading this, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Don't be afraid to face the truth, no matter how painful it may be. Trust yourself, and don't let anyone cheat or lie to you just because you're vulnerable. Sometimes, the greatest act of strength is walking away from someone who doesn't deserve your love, your trust, or your time. I'll keep healing, keep moving forward. Maybe one day I'll find someone who truly cares, who's honest and kind. Until then, I'll focus on me. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I'm stronger than I ever thought. I just needed to see the truth to realize it.